Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Today, we're going to be looking at the topic of forgiveness. Usually, I'm approaching the topic of forgiveness from my religious background, from a faith perspective. Forgiveness is one of the noble traits or abilities that Jesus, I'm a Christian, and so Jesus is the person who we look to and whose teachings we follow. He talks about forgiveness as one of the noble traits and abilities. In fact, he says that forgiveness is so important that in as much as you're able to forgive others, to the same extent is your Heavenly Father going to forgive you. And so it's a really, really big deal in the faith. But last week I shared a video, the 86-year research at the Harvard University, The Good Life, what made people really thrive and prosper and experience longevity. They found that the people who were really successful in life, they had really good relationships and they were practicing forgiveness. They were practicing the attribute of forgiveness. So today, I want to explore forgiveness from a scientific standpoint and explore how the attribute of forgiveness can actually have a scientific impact on our health and other aspects of our lives. So, yeah, join me. Okay, let's go ahead and jump straight in then. We're focusing on letting go, overcoming those difficult things that we need to overcome when we forgive our fellow human beings who have offended us in some way. So we're looking at it from a scientific perspective, though. We're taking the scientific perspective. As I said before, I usually approach this from a spiritual perspective and a moral perspective, but we're looking at emotional, physical, and psychological health impacts of forgiveness. And we're using 6 research articles to do it. Each one of these research articles, they come to the topic from a different perspective, but they're all unique, although the first two are quite similar. You'll see in a minute. So the first one is on cardiovascular health and forgiveness. So they had 108 participants in this research study. 44 of them were male and 64 were female. They interviewed them and asked them about experiences of being betrayed and how they kind of cope with the experience of being betrayed. As you can imagine, being betrayed carries with it feelings of anger, feelings of really upset, some really really negative feelings that you can only overcome through forgiveness. They interviewed them, and while they were being interviewed, they were checking certain physiological factors such as blood pressure, heart rate, muscle tension, and skin conductivity. They're trying to gauge the level of stress. So, this is the article, friends. Please go ahead and have a look yourself and investigate this article yourself. That's the reference there for you. So, in terms of key findings from this article, they learned that being able to forgive allowed you to have a lower blood pressure and a lower heart rate. So your heart is you have a healthier heart if you're able to figure out this forgiveness thing. So the next article, this one is coming to it from a stress management kind of perspective. And so they were looking at the stress hormone, cortisol, and they were kind of coming to it from this a similar perspective to the previous study. They were asking them questions about experiences of betrayal. And as I said, betrayal, you have to get around it through forgiving. Or otherwise, you're going to be stuck in that situation. It's going to be quite bad for your health. So they're asking them to recall experiences of being betrayed and, you know, feelings of forgiveness as they explore these feelings. They used 2 emotion-focused coping strategies, and these are empathy and compassion. Empathy and compassion. Where do we talk about empathy and compassion? Well, that sounds just like the Hesed mindset. The Hesed mindset is something that I talk about quite a bit in other videos. It's this idea of having unconditional love towards ourselves and towards our fellow beings. That's the Hesed mindset. It's the ultimate in just self-actualization, actually, because you're kind of elevating yourself above the normal jibber jabber of the world, and you're just being a bit more wholesome and complete. I think this Hesed mindset is it's a big deal. We need to really kind of look into that. So anyway, let's move on. So the research article is there. Please go ahead and look it up yourself. You're free to do so. The findings, in terms of the key findings, they found that being able to forgive led to lower cortisol levels and led to lower stress levels. And so, if you want to have a more emotional resilience in your life, then explore this idea of being able to forgive. Let's turn then to the third research article. This one is on mental health and forgiveness. The researchers actually reviewed multiple research articles. And in reviewing these articles, they were looking at mental health indicators such as depression, anxiety, and anger. So they were looking at the topic of overcoming these feelings as a result of being able to forgive. They explored long-term forgiveness practices. They wanted to find out what mental health impact these had. The research article is right there. Please feel free to go ahead and have a look at that. In terms of the key findings, they found that there was significant reduction in mental health symptoms. And so, if people were able to figure out this forgiveness thing, they could reduce, anxiety and anger and all those negative mental health associated issues, breaking the cycle of those negative impacts. Let's go then to the fourth article. This one is on empathy and relationship sustainability. So they surveyed some people and they wanted to understand the impact of empathy on the relationship. So the forgiveness, empathy, and the impact on their relationships. So the frequency of behaviors such as empathy and compassion, how frequent these behaviors featured in the relationship, and also the what became of the relationship as a result of these. Of course, empathy and compassion were uh, precursors to forgiving, and then the person who's more forgiving as a result of the high levels of empathy and compassion, they had happier relationships. Their relationships were better. They looked also at what impacts religious beliefs had on people's ability to forgive. This is the research article. Please go ahead and have a look. So, people who forgave, this is one of the key findings, or the key finding, people who were able to forgive were experienced greater empathy. And this empathy allowed them to experience happier relationships. You see? So you're having better social connections, better mental health, more empathy, and just all around good. So the fifth article is talking about forgiveness as it relates to brain functionality. So these research participants, 10 of them, were invited to an MRI scan. And while they were in the scan, they were given these stories about people doing things that were just not right, and therefore they needed to be forgiven. And there were options, and so people, in terms of giving the responding to the scenarios, if they were present, they needed to say if this person would be forgiven and what level of forgiveness would they be willing to give this person. And so they're checking levels of forgiveness, and they found that the activity in the brain activity, was being aroused by those people who were experiencing the emotions and yeah, empathy, emotion of empathy, and actually forgiving. This is the research article. That's the reference that where you experience emotion and where you're able to uh, experience empathy and all those good emotions and all those good feelings. So empathy also have a positive effect. Sorry, empathy, which leads to forgiveness, has a positive impact on your brain. So this is the last article. This is article number 6 that we're going to be exploring. This one is looking at the immune system, how forgiveness has an impact on the immune system. It was a 3-year study, so it's longitudinal, and they had over 1,000 participants, and they were looking at how forgiveness impacted people's immune system. What effects did it have? They were looking at inflammation markers, and people who were able to experience forgive, excuse me, were able to experience forgiveness. what information markers did they report. And so the individuals had to go through some questionnaires, and these questionnaires talked about levels of forgiveness and reporting their health, the state of their health, and their psychological traits as well. This is the article. Please go ahead and look it up. They found, or the key finding, is that higher forgiveness levels were linked to less inflammation, and less inflammation led to healthier immune system. Healthier immune system led to healthier human beings, and so that's the general finding from that one. So these are the key benefits and takeaways we want you to explore as you consider these six articles, research articles that I just shared with you. First, you have lower stress levels. Second, you have reduced heart disease, the improved mental health that you desire, and the enhanced social connections and a stronger immune system. So all around, it's just you're a healthier person, emotionally, physically, and psychologically. So this is my kind of parting remark, as it were. I would like you to think about forgiving as giving a gift to the person who has offended you, but it is also giving a gift to yourself. You're giving a gift to yourself, guys, when you're able to forgive. If we're able to change our mindset into that kind of approach, it'll be a lot easier. Trust me. So the my two suggestions are these. When was the last time you experienced forgiveness because you may have done something wrong to someone, whether it was on purpose or not? You offended someone and they needed to forgive you. When was the last time that happened? And when it happened, how did you feel? What impact did that experience have on you? That's the first thing. The second thing is, when was the last time you had a grudge and you needed to forgive someone who had hurt you or harmed you or did something that got on your nerves, and just you just needed to overcome that through forgiveness? How did the experience go? Did you feel? How could you have handled that situation differently? I think we could explore our experiences reflectively, and we could probably do a lot better than we give ourselves credit for. That's my personal view. So those are my thoughts on the topic. I hope you found it interesting, and thank you for hanging around. Have a wonderful day.